In this video, I'm gonna be breaking down the exact strategy that helped me go from 0 to 12K MRR in 3 months. I invested over 45K in courses over the last year alone, including Serge Gartari, Eddie Malouf, Klein Ascension, Joel Kaplan, Mitch Gonzalez, and many others, basically to learn so that you don't have to pay for it. You're probably wondering, who the hell is this handsome guy and what am I talking about? A little context on me: Will Zimmerman started a premium grade sanitizer company during COVID called Fresh Hands. We sold to Target, the wonderful company, Harvard, Minnesota Timberwolves, Walmart, and we ran up to $2 million in over 3 years. I had a small exit. Then I started a blockchain company called Eternity. It's called Epic Chain now, grew from 5 employees to 41 at its peak in 3 years. Had a small exit, still an advisor. Today I help small business-to-business companies with their AI go-to-market strategy, along with doing add-ons for private equity. In this video, I'll be talking about what I learned from these courses, particularly, and molded into our own ACE sales strategy, how we did it, how this will help you increase your close rate by at least 25%. Take what's useful. All right, so part 1, opening frame. Probably the most important part of the call is really stacking yourself as the authority. Obviously, you want to do that before the call and when it starts. You can do something like, hey, name, how's it going? How's the week been so far? Where exactly are you located? Brief rapport, lasting no more than 2 to 3 minutes. Definitely want to focus on relatability and something a little less generic than maybe weather. So something after these 2 to 3 minutes, mistakes I've made in the past is where sometimes you keep going. You really want to cut this off and professionally. So how you can do that is, if it gets to that 3-minute mark, hey, got it. Well, we can dive straight into it and get started with our call if you want. Something like that, just kind of to transition into the next part of the call. So then you can do an introduction. Hey, I'm Bob Smith. I'm the CEO or head of whatever. And I'm basically going to go ahead and ask you a bunch of questions so I can better understand your business to see if we're a good fit. And if we are, I'm confident we can help you, type of thing. And I'd love to walk through kind of our packages and pricing as well. How does that sound? All right, so critical frame elements here. There are 4 of them. 1, introducing yourself as basically the decision maker, whether that's the CEO, founder, head of blank, head of sales, head of marketing, head of partnerships, whatever. It's important to introduce yourself as a decision maker and a main decision maker. Number 2, you want to tell them you're about to ask them questions. It sets the expectation. Number 3, tell them that they're going to get pricing later on in the call. This is huge because you're definitely going to get pricing questions and it's on their mind, so it prevents price interruptions as you go. And then get their permission to run the call your way, which is super helpful. Again, taking this type of frame really puts you in charge. And from all the patterns before, stacking yourself as an authority. I know we talked about the pre-call email flow. We didn't go into it in this video. We will in another one. And obviously the authority kind of positioning in the beginning of the call, taking the frame, letting them know what you're going to do, walking them through. And this really is a critical element. All right, great. So part 2, set expectations and lead the way. So you can say something like, great, well, I know we were chatting over LinkedIn, Facebook, you came through our website, whoever the referral was, and I was wondering what's the main reason and what resonated with you about our messaging or our services that motivate you to hop on a call with us today? They'll give the answer, and then you can say something like, okay, got it. We can definitely get into all that. And like I said before, love to learn more about your business and gonna dive into that in just a minute here. And then we can definitely go a little bit deeper into what exactly it is we do and how that works and everything. And if it makes sense, I can kind of walk you through next steps and how we can move forward. Then you're gonna get the okay, sounds good. Again, getting these little micro commitments on the call is certainly helpful. It helps you frame into a positive narrative and outcome for yourself. It betters your chances for the end of the call when you talk to them about pricing and the actual commitment. So part 3, business understanding. So tell me a little bit more about your business. What is it that you currently got going on? We dive into that just a little bit deeper. So they're gonna go ahead and give you a description of their business, their main kind of services. And so some key discovery questions. What is kind of your most important service after they give you your services, or your most profitable service and or product? How much are you currently selling this product or service for? What's an average client worth to you? How many clients do you currently have at the moment? A little bit deeper, you can say, hey, what do you mean by that? Or you mentioned X, tell me more about that. Or, so you're currently doing X, could you explain that a little bit further? So you're really building the foundation, understanding, and starts positioning you as someone who asks detailed business questions and takes copious notes and actually cares about the business owner or the person. Part 4, marketing, and kind of deep diving into this. So this is one of the more critical parts of the call. This accomplishes 3 things. 1, it's going to qualify their financial capacity. 2, it's going to position us as an expert even further. And 3, it's going to prevent price objections later. So how does this work? Current marketing discovery could be something like, hey, how are you currently acquiring clients right now? What is your primary marketing channel at the moment? And what's kind of like the monthly investment in, you can go into each marketing channel, if you will. Kind of metrics questions. I know Eddie Malouf talks about this, and I know others have as well. Alex Ramosi. Kind of start with easy questions and build to harder. So kind of what's your cost per lead, and what's your average transaction value? You can talk about website conversions if you're in SEO, maybe some traffic metrics, and I know Malouf talks about this. He says, what is your current monthly customer lifetime value? And most can't answer this type of question. So these are like real minutia questions about what's specific about their clients and what the value of them is super helpful. So kind of local businesses, I know you can talk about referral campaigns. Hey, in the last like 60 to 90 days, like how many referrals have you gotten, and what's your percentage kind of rate versus per client? What's your client retention over a year, over 6 months, a year? Repeat business. Is it 30 days? Is it 6 months? These types of things are super helpful. And if you're an e-com, what customer payback period or acquisition how much does that cost? You want to have them not be able to answer the questions that you're asking. You can start with some easy ones and go to more difficult ones, and you know which questions to ask, and you can research these as well before you get on the call. So you want to point out blind spots that they might have, and you want them to think, wow, man, this guy knows my business better than I do. So financial qualification questions you can ask after kind of building a rapport. Easier ones. Hey, what are your current profit margins? What was your revenue last month? And these are kind of standard, just to kind of get an idea of like, can they afford your services, and are they profitable? Do you want to work with them? How did that compare to the month prior? So definitely want to get into that. And so for local businesses, so when you say like, let's just say 60% profit margin, is that before or after a personal deduction from the business? And so this will reveal if they're making, if they're only netting 2,000 or maybe not 20,000. So you can kind of do the math quickly while on the call. Part 5 is agency objections. So this is where you want to get into their pain points. Have you worked with other marketing agencies in the past? Of course they have. Everyone's been burned, so you're waiting for that. Let them talk basically shit on anybody that they worked with before. And what was the experience like? Play dumb. What do you think those issues? Why do you think those issues occurred? What was your investment with them? How basically you've seen how much they pay for this. What would you want to see differently set up in your next partnership? So this is huge because you can just pit yourself as the opposite of what you're hearing. And of course, you now know how much they pay, and you know if they can afford you. So you know the exact pricing that they're comfortable with. You know their past pain points. You know how to position yourself, and basically, this is going to help prevent objections as we go forward. So, so you can say something like, "All right, got it. So, you know, what are the biggest challenges you're facing right now, and how long have you been dealing with this for?" And you can use empathetic, soft tone with broken sentences, so it's less threatening when you're talking to deeper questions. So you can do this, and you can ask all types of questions like, what other approaches have you tried? Why, and we talked about why do you think these approaches haven't worked? So you really want to get into there. Part 6 is a timeline and team structure. So basically, you really want to know, is this something that's really important to them? If they say, if you ask, when are you looking to have this problem solved? And they say, well, 9 months from now, it's like, okay, this is probably time. We should probably talk at a later time. Because if they're not giving you anything immediate, it's like, okay, great, cool. When would you prefer to revisit this conversation when you're ready? Or if this isn't a priority now, a lot could change between now and then. Like, we could just table this discussion for later and, not spend any more time on it today, right? And so you're gonna get a few different responses. Oftentimes they might feel a sense of urgency because you're kind of making it unattainable, just like the pretty girl, at the bar type of thing is everyone's going up to her. And if you are not kind of as desperate as we'll say as other guys, there might be a better chance that you end up with her phone number and going on a date or so. So important to get decision makers involved, because if it's a multi-person decision, then you're basically screwed if you just get one person's buy-in. So it's you really want to ask, especially with bigger companies, hey, who else is involved with this? Do you have any business partners? Are they equal partners? How large is your team currently? Are there other executives involved in decisions like this? These types of things. You really want to ferret that out and figure out how to leverage getting their buy-in as well. If that means another call, if they're not on it, so be it. At least you're aware. Outcomes and goals. This is your final leverage point if you haven't found enough kind of pain. And again, you can re-ask the question, kind of what you talked about in the beginning is, what is your primary business goal right now? Like, what is keeping you up at night? Such a trite sentence, but that type of thing is what you want to go for. And so, how long have you been working towards this goal? And you can kind of have like a more empathetic, like lower tone, maybe even break up the sentences. And so you've been pursuing this for 9 months? Maybe your tone goes up with the amount of time. That means that you potentially left $600,000 on the table during the 9 months because you haven't achieved this yet. So really kind of breaking it up. Inflection is huge. Concentrating on numbers and timeline will really kind of hopefully put more pressure on them internally to change. And so if you've missed revenue of these numbers earlier, what would achieving this goal mean in terms of monthly revenue? Where are your numbers currently? So obviously taking them to from Hell Island to Heaven Island, and the transition, obviously you're selling the transition. And so part 8, value statement. You can start kind of getting into what we do. All right, well, yeah, I can definitely go a little bit deeper into what it is we actually do, because I'm sure they're going to be wondering at this point. If you want, if it's a broken sentences, and they say sure. So basically, what we do is, and then you tell them you specialize in helping them to solve blank problem and get result through blank mechanism. So that's like a general framework. You can obviously kind of mold that, but that's kind of a nice starting point, and describe them, their business, and mirror back what kind of they told you during the entire call, because 75, 25, 80, 20, whatever you want to say, 90, 10. And then what you want to do is kind of do a three pillar pitch, if you will. And so, this should be anywhere from really like 5 to under 10 minutes, is maybe closer to 7 or 8. So obviously keeping the 80-20 rule in mind, as a trite thing, but it does make sense. And so what you want to do in pillar one, kind of your agency addressing their concerns from the discovery. I know you mentioned you wanted to blank, and well, here's how, and I know what happened to you, and so here's how we are different, and here's what you're going to get with us. You're not going to get all that bullshit, kind of what you mentioned before. Obviously, you don't have to curse on the call, but frame your agency as the exact solution, kind of previous versus their previously bad experiences. So between each pillar, if you want to do a tie down, you can. Hey, does this kind of make sense? Basically, like a micro close. Do you think this is going to help you kind of reach your goal? Those types of things. Is this the kind of agency you're looking for? Can be these little temporary or short closes or tie downs, if you will. And so pillar number two, your special system, your unique process, why you're different. And pillar three, your data results, obviously social proof, case studies, track record, client interviews that I'm sure have been sent before, and then you can bring them back up again, other ones. And so kind of a pre-close tie down. Hey, before we talk about the investment, are you 100% confident that we at ABC Company can kind of take the process I showed you and we'll work to get you kind of your goal? Are you confident in that? And then you obviously want to be quiet and wait for, 100% confident, or, well, I'm a little confused on this point, and then start clarifying it. So at least before going in with the price that you can start handling these last minute objections, if you will. And so part 9 is kind of pricing and close. So always start, obviously, as you know, anchoring. Everybody knows anchoring. If you read Cialdini with influence, obviously you want to start high. So anything you say below that seems like a discount. So, based on everything we discussed, here's what I recommend. And then obviously say your highest package, and then shut up and be quiet. And it could get awkward, even if 20 some seconds passes, just be quiet. And obviously the first guy to talk loses in these types of situations. So yeah, we also have, if there's an objection, we also have, and then downsell. So whatever that is. And this would be kind of a normal price per month and includes blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about that? Another tie down. So does this work for you? Does this work for your budget? All this stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks very much. And have a great day.